So welcome to our 7-minute summary of Wednesday's lecture in 1 Corinthians. So I'm going to set the timer. Amazon, set a timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
So let's start. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And our goal today is to look at a quick overview of the chapter and then to get to the main point of, there's the main point of what we're going to do today. So Paul talks about the fact that Israel had everything that made it look as if Israel was anointed by God, set apart by God. God saved people, and they were going to the promised land. So Paul says, now I want you to know, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud, the pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night, all passed through the sea, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food, all ate the same spiritual drink, for they drank from a spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. So everything sounds perfect, and it sounds like they're going to be blessed by God, and they're going to be in the promised land, and everything's perfect. But God was not well pleased with most of them, for they were struck down in the wilderness. And then Paul just gives us a list of how God struck them down for all the different reasons, which I won't look at. Because I want to make sure that we have enough time. So, but what Paul is doing is he's showing us that just because you're saying, I love Jesus and I follow Jesus and I belong to Jesus, that doesn't mean the same thing that you are receiving all of the fullness of Jesus. Because those people, because of their addiction and love of sin and the rebellion and the discontent, those people ended up dying in the wilderness and never making it into the promised land. So all of that brings us to this remarkable passage. Verse 11 we'll start with. Now, these things happened to them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. So all these things that happened to them are for us so that we can figure out how we're supposed to live. And so then he has this remarkable 2 verses. So whoever thinks he stands must be careful not to fall. You need to think. Because if you think that you're standing, you may be just exactly like the people in the wilderness. And they thought, well, we were delivered from Pharaoh in Egypt. We crossed through the Red Sea. We had the pillar of cloud leading us. We had Moses giving the law. We had God do miracle after miracle. God fed us bread from heaven. God gave us miraculous water every day from the rock. So we are definitely God's people. And I see this all the time. And it can different kinds of ways. People who speak in tongues, people who are involved in miracles, or people whose parents are pastors, people whose uncles are bishops. I see it all the time and say we have all of the what we call in America trappings, all of the proof that we are God's people. All of these things, I speak in tongues, God does miracles, all this stuff. And what Paul is warning, be careful. If you think you stand, you must be careful not to fall, because they fell. They had everything and they fell, and they ended up not making it into the promised land. So you be careful. That's what he's saying here. You be careful. And then he says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to humanity. And Paul is saying this for a specific reason. I understand this, and everybody understands it. When you are under temptation, whether it's a difficult trial, whether it's sexual temptation, whether it's hatred towards somebody, a lack of forgiveness, and just there's just a whole mountain of different kinds of sins. But when you're under temptation, you tend to think that it's the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody. No one's ever had to suffer the way you suffer. No one's ever had to go through the sexual temptation the way you've had to go through sexual temptation. No one's had the problems of grades or money or discouragement or weakness or sickness or whatever it is. Nobody's ever experienced it as bad as I have. And Paul says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to humanity. Everybody goes through this stuff, Paul's saying. So first of all, Don't think you're a special case. You're not. But God is a special case. You're not a special case, but God is. God is faithful. And then Paul makes an assurance that we hardly ever believe, and he will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. God is not going to allow whatever happens to you to be worse than what you can handle. And he's going to show you how to handle it in a short moment. So no matter what it is, it's never too much. I know it feels like it's too much, but it's not too much. It's never too much. With the temptation, he will also provide a way of escape so that you are able to bear it. And in the Greek, the way it says it, he will provide the escape way of enduring it. Let me give you an example, which I gave in class. The building is on fire. You're on the 4th floor. You've got to get off the building, but you can't because everything below you is on fire. But there's a ladder, and the ladder goes down the side of the building. That's your escape way. What Paul says, your escape way, my escape way, every Christian's escape way, it's always the same. It is bearing it. It is persevering. It is not giving up. That's what it is. It says it here, bearing, and I wish it didn't say it that way, because a much better way to say it is to help people to realize that enduring is what it's all about. It's not giving up. So let me explain that in the 30 seconds I have left. Enduring means that you fail and then you get back up and you keep trusting. You fail and then you get back up and you keep trusting. You say, God, how can you hear me another time? But a person who perseveres, a person who endures, a person who doesn't give up, keeps coming back, because the grace is always there. And so the concept that Paul's giving here is the escape way out of the burning building of temptation is not to give up, but to keep persevering. Oops, I hear the sound. Well, that sound is telling me that it's time to say goodbye. And so I'm going to do that. Actually, I think I really have no choice, because I'm worried about this coronavirus. And so I've decided I need to go someplace where it's safe. So God bless you all. Have a great weekend, and don't think that you stand. Take heed lest you fall, and realize the escape way out of what you're going through is endurance, perseverance, not giving up. God bless you all. Take care.